Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about how I am cash flowing my undergrad degree as a public university four-year student. So I am currently a second semester sophomore at an in-state public university. I started school in 2018 and I am planning to graduate at the end of my winter semester in 2021. So I want to get into why I'm cash flowing my undergrad degree because I don't think that a lot of people think about the fact that it's even a possibility for them. They don't really know what steps to take or even where to start. And I'm here to tell you that yes, it is possible and you should really strive to do it. So just a quick bit about me. I am a business major with a finance concentration. So this stuff is naturally very interesting to me. And I think that's part of the reason why I chose finance as my career path. So why would someone want to cash flow their education? Well, there are so many reasons. Let's start with the basic ones, I guess. First of all, you are not going to be going into debt, which means you are not going to owe anything to anyone after you graduate. That's the biggest reason for me. When I graduate school, I don't want to be paying someone else for something that I have already consumed. I think for a lot of kids, their entry-level salaries are not going to be what they expected them to be, and they might not have the flexibility in their lives that they once thought they would have after graduating if they have all of this debt that they are now paying off. Something that's really important to me is after I get out of school, I want to have a little bit of flexibility and have that feeling of ease knowing that I can take a little bit of time to find the right job for me and not be so concerned about my first paycheck just because I don't have interest to be paid off. I don't have a principal to start chunking away at. And that's something that gives me incredible peace of mind. But I think it also just sets students up for a debt-free lifestyle in which they are not spending more than they make. It's the classic phrase of not having more month left at the end of the money. That's not something that I want to be concerned about in my life ever. I want to have that financial freedom. So let's talk about the steps that I took and am currently taking in order to cash flow my undergrad degree and not go into debt. These are all going to be tips as well. So although this is my personal situation, I do recommend doing as many of these things as possible. So my first tip / what I did even before going to college was I took as many AP and dual enrollment classes in high school as possible. So my high school offered AP classes starting my junior year. So although I didn't really overwhelm my schedule, just because I had a lot of things going on, I was a tri-scholar athlete at the time, I did take a couple of AP courses that were generally broad in my junior year as well as my senior year. Now, I'm lucky because in my hometown, we have a community college that we were offered dual enrollment courses through. If you don't know what dual enrollment courses are, I would encourage you to ask your counselor at school or just Google dual enrollment in my area. But for me, I was offered 2 free vouchers from the community college in my home state. I was able to apply those to the AP classes I was taking because if you didn't already know, for AP classes, you have to score a 4 or a 5 in order for those credits to transfer. And for some specific courses, a 4 will count as 1 class and a 5 will sometimes actually count as 2 classes, one that's a basic level and one that's an intermediate level class. So for dual enrollment, it's kind of like an insurance policy for if you don't end up getting a 4 or a 5 on the AP exams. I did not do so well in my AP exams my junior year. I ended up getting 3s on both of them and wasn't too happy about it, but it didn't end up mattering because I had done 2 free vouchers for the 2 classes I took, so both of them ended up transferring to my public university. For my senior year, I didn't have those 2 free vouchers left. Now that doesn't mean you still can't do dual enrollment, it just means it comes at a bit of a price tag. So my senior year, I still took 2 additional AP courses, one of which I didn't do dual enrollment at all, and the other one I ended up paying, I think it was like $135 to have that course transferred. And by doing that, I just kind of ensured that just in case I didn't score a 4 or a 5, I still got that transferred. But for $135, if any of you are in high school, this might sound like a lot. When you get to your public university, you can very easily pay up to $1,500 for a single course. So consider that a huge deal. So just to give a rundown of what I ended up transferring for credits, I transferred 16 credits in total, which is a little bit over 1 full semester at college. So I had already knocked off a full semester credit-wise at my university before I even got there. The second thing that I did in my second tip is to apply for as many scholarships as you possibly can find in your local area your junior and senior year of high school. My guidance counselors were awesome in offering a whole file folder of all of the scholarships we could apply for. Yes, each one takes a lot of time, but even if you can get a few $1,000s, it is 100% certainly worth it. So my senior year, I think I started applying for scholarships maybe in November, and they were all submitted by, I think, mid-April. I ended up applying for 30 scholarships, which is a lot. I think most kids maybe ended up applying for 5, but for me, knowing I was not going to take out loans for my education, I had to finance it somehow. I ended up getting, I think it was $5,500 in scholarships. And just a disclaimer for the rest of the video, I am gonna be completely transparent about costs and money. I know this is a sensitive topic for a lot of people, but I think it's important to know and be able to break down costs so that you have an example to go by. 2 other major sources of aid are obviously the FAFSA, Federal Application, FAFSA. I can't even remember what FAFSA stands for. Free application for federal student aid. And the second one is any state grants that you may be eligible for. This is something I did, and it's definitely worth it because a lot of students do end up getting federal and state aid for their education. In my personal circumstances, I actually didn't get any financial aid when applying to college, and I still have not received any financial aid since. The only thing I have been offered is a federal loan, which I have declined every year, except for the first year. Actually, I did take out a loan for the first semester and then ended up paying it like in April of my freshman year. And didn't take out loans after that. It is possible that you are gonna get federal aid, so it is definitely worth applying. My parents' income just exceeds what they give for financial aid, which it is what it is. Another tip that worked well for me is at the end of my senior year when I graduated, I did hold a graduation party. And although you're not necessarily asking for gifts, if someone asks, you know, can we gift you anything or whatever, always just ask for a check or cash or something. Most people kind of assume that you're gonna want cash just because you're going into college. It's not like you're getting married and you need all these things to furnish a house with. I did have a couple $1,000s that I ended up receiving from a lot of relatives and family friends, and I was very lucky that I had those people in my life to help me out with school. And I know that not everyone has those opportunities, so don't feel bad if you don't. Again, this is just my circumstance and what I ended up being gifted with, and I am so thankful for it. So another tip that I have, and this is something I didn't personally do, but I know a lot of kids who did, and it worked really well for them, is taking a gap year to work, accumulate enough cash so that you can go into your undergrad degree already with a cash stack in your hands. I think that a lot of people look down upon taking a gap year because they think it's kids just being lazy and not wanting to continue the education. This is not the case at all. If you strongly feel that you don't necessarily know what you're going to study and you don't want to waste time taking courses and waste all of that money taking courses and spending an entire year of your life potentially just to change your major or just not know what you want, maybe you decide that you want to go to a trade school instead. Who knows? Taking a gap year is a great way to buy yourself time to figure out what exactly you want to do and to work for some money while you're doing it. Something I did do, and I highly recommend doing this, and guidance counselors do not tell high school students this enough, is consider taking community college courses your first year and then transferring to a school your second year and beyond. What I ended up doing was apply for my public university. I went there for my fall semester and I ended up taking the spring semester off and taking additional courses through my community college, which was the same one that offered the dual enrollment credits. So I took a couple classes that would count towards my degree that I knew would transfer, and I ended up doing online courses for the spring semester of my freshman year. In hindsight, I don't regret going to university my fall semester because I met my amazing roommate whom I am still living with and going to be living with for a while now, and love her. Shout out Kimberly. But I definitely think that it's a great option to just start out in community college, get those like 30 credits of such cheap education, but that is so transferable. Transfer that And that is going to be all of your, what they call gen ed, general ed requirements. All those classes are like random classes depending on what your degree is. I actually started out as a psychology major. So in like the liberal arts college of my university, I had to take like astronomy, archaeology, French, philosophy, and then, gosh, what was the other one? Oh, a psych course. So I could have taken a lot of those classes very easily at the community college for a lot cheaper, saved tuition, room and board for my first year, and just started my sophomore year. I didn't do that, but I do recommend doing that if that's something you're interested in. So in cash flowing your degree, I think one of the most efficient ways you can do so is by just going to school for less. It's logical. Just go to school for less semesters, come out with the same degree, and you're golden. So, like I already mentioned, I only spent half of my freshman year at university. The other half was spent online. I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but I am graduating a semester early. So instead of graduating spring 2022, graduating winter 2021. And after computing what I'm going to be saving, which I will show you guys later in an Excel demonstration, I am going to be saving around $8,000 by graduating a semester early, which is actually insane to think about, but yes, so graduate a semester early. So another thing I've taken advantage of while being at university is really building a rapport with my advisor. It is so important to get to know your advisor because he or she can offer you a lot of insight in how you can condense your semesters and potentially graduate early. Get a 4-year plan out in an Excel spreadsheet. This is what I had my advisor do, and it has been incredibly helpful in trying to figure out what classes are offered and what classes I can be taking, and take as many of those as possible. So when we're talking about condensing your semesters, I'm not talking like 18 credits every single semester and like go hard, because what I'm going to talk about later is it is good to have some time to work aside from doing your studies. But specifically, I'm just going to tell you really briefly like the number of credits each semester that I have taken. So my freshman year, fall, it was 15. My spring semester, I actually only took 2 courses because I was also working full-time. So when I came home in December, I got a full-time job and worked all the way until I went back to school in August, and I was taking 6 credits in the spring. That obviously helped a lot with how much cash I had on hand, and also helped with credits. When I went back to school in the fall, I took 15 credits. This spring I'm taking 16 credits, and then 16 credits for the next 3 semesters until I graduate. One other tip that I have is take summer courses. Now, I don't necessarily mean take the ones that your university is offering, because guess what? Those are going to be at the exact same cost as what you're taking now as a full-time student. I'm saying find a community college, find a college that will transfer credits to university, and take a couple summer courses if you've realized that you don't have enough time to graduate early by taking a typical 15 credit per semester load. This is totally possible, and it saves a lot of money because those classes are offered at a much lower rate than what you would normally be paying to take them through your public university. Now, how do you find out which classes will transfer? I can tell you. So if you look up your university's transfer credit guide, which pretty sure every college should have this, you can see exactly what classes that you need to graduate and how those credits will transfer if you take them at another school. There are very specific classes that you need to make sure actually transfer before you go ahead and take those, because the worst thing in the world would be for you to take that class and for it not to transfer when you're all said and done with it. So that's actually what I am doing 2 times. I have not taken summer classes up until this coming summer. It's going to be my first. So summer 2020, is it so? Oh my gosh, it's 2020. Okay. This summer 2020, I'm going to be taking just a simple 3 credit course that counts towards my business undergrad. Next summer, I am going to be taking, again, a very basic 3 credit course that counts towards my psych minor. I have researched these courses, and if you're not sure, it's always better to call or email the transfer affairs office at your university just to make sure that you're 100% going to get credit for those classes before you pay and do all that work and yada, yada, yada. Okay, so up until now, we've talked a lot about how you can manipulate your high school schedule, your college schedule, scholarships, aid, help like that. One thing that's very important is to actually work. So a lot of students will get a high school job after school on the weekends, save up that money, and then have that money to spend during college. I personally did that. It is so vitally important. You cannot cash flow your undergrad degree if you are not working at all. I just don't think it's going to be possible. Find a job on campus, find a job near campus that you can walk to or bike to or take the bus to or whatever, and consider working your schedule when you are registering for courses so that you have large blocks of time in your schedule so that you can sign up for hours at a shift. Now, no, I don't go overboard. I'm not working 30 hours a week. You might have to. It depends on if you do this analysis that I'm going to show you and see how much you actually need to make. I'm talking working less than 10 hours a week. That's what I have determined I need to do in order to fulfill the cash requirements that I have for school. Another big thing, and I know this is obvious in terms of working, but it's hard if you don't have a job before your college career starts in the fall to try to find work over winter break, because it is just a 4-week break, and unless you're established in some business, they're not going to train a new employee to work for 4 weeks and then go back off to school again. So especially for your underclassmen years of school, definitely find a job that you can work in the winter and in the summer, or have 2 different options, one that you can work in the winter and one that you can work in the summer. Another thing that I do, and this is definitely not recommended for everyone, but I do babysit a lot. I'll babysit on the weekends up at school, or I will come home if someone has asked me to babysit. Okay, so now that we've gone through all of those tips, when it boils down to logistics, the way that I figured out how I was going to pay for school, how much I needed to work, how many summer courses I need to take, everything like that, is I went ahead and made an Excel spreadsheet with every single cost of school and every single bit of cash that I have, my parents are contributing, or I'm receiving through scholarships, aid, whatever. I went ahead and wrote all of this stuff down, did some calculations, so it's a very dynamic spreadsheet, and I'm gonna show you guys, again, this is completely transparent. These are my actual numbers. I did change a lot of the headings so that you guys don't know exactly what school I go to, but everything else is the exact same. I want you to see an example of how you can do this. So I'm gonna just go ahead and hop on to Excel. Okay, so you can see on my Excel spreadsheet that I kind of broke all my expenses down into the 4 years that I would be in school. So as you can see, for freshman year, this is what I pay to take dual enrollment, acceptance payment at my university, the cost of orientation. This was before freshman year even started. Now, this was the fall semester of my first year. So you can see I just have all of these components that I ended up logging and paying for. And up here, I have this summation of all of these. So I can see that that was what the cost of my fall semester was, including everything. So another thing to mention is while I'm going through this, I do update this on a semester basis. So I will go in and update these numbers, because a lot of these grayed out numbers are grayed out because they haven't actually been incurred yet. These are estimates based on previous years, and I will go ahead and update those as the semesters approach. So this was the loan that I took out at the beginning of my fall semester, and which I told you I paid off in April of my freshman year. This was the interest that it accrued. And then in red is everything that is deducted. So I have grad money here. This is what I received. I have my university scholarship, which is based on merit, and then other scholarships. And this is what I had from local scholarships that I had applied for. This was my spring semester at my community college and what I ended up paying because I only had tuition and books and I lived at home. So that was the cost of my freshman year. Moving over to my sophomore year, I followed the exact same outline, except for I didn't obviously have any grad money or other scholarships, because most of these local scholarships were only for graduating high school seniors. It's unfortunate, but it's definitely harder to find scholarships for current undergrad students. It is possible, and I did apply for some, but I didn't end up getting any. So this was the cost of the fall semester and everything that went into that. This was the spring semester. These two have asterisks because of the pandemic. I was credited for some of my housing and my meal plans that didn't end up getting used up for the remainder of the semester. And then this will be this summer. So this actually is what I'm going to be paying because I've already received my bill for it and already paid. So I can actually, okay, here we go. So this is what I'll be paying this summer to take that one summer course that I talked about for my business undergrad. My junior year, this is what I have forecasted. Obviously, I haven't incurred any of these costs as I haven't entered my junior year. So my university's president has declared that tuition will not increase in this coming fall semester, which is a huge blessing. So I do know that a lot of these numbers will stay the same, which is good. And then some of these are estimates, obviously, like parking and books are all estimates. So this is the spring semester of 2021, which is the exact same thing as this semester. This was the other course I was talking about that I'm gonna have to take for my psychology minor next summer. And then this is going to be my housing for my junior year. So I have gotten a steal on rent for my housing. Another tip that I didn't mention earlier, don't always go with the flow with what everyone else is doing when you are looking for off-campus housing. It was truly a blessing from God to have the housing deal that I ended up getting for the next 2 years. But my professor actually has a separate entrance apartment in her house. And this was a professor I became close to in one of my smaller courses at the beginning of my sophomore year. And so rent is very cheap, but this was housing. And then this is just renter's insurance, actual rent, and our rent includes all of our utilities, which is another huge blessing. And then this is just an estimated cost of what we might be paying for an internet package. Moving on to senior year. One thing you'll notice, as I mentioned before, is that this is only one semester. So I am only doing one semester of my senior year and then I will graduate. So this is the same numbers copied over. And then housing, I'm only accruing 7 months of housing. I'm not gonna count housing after December of 2021 because that won't be considered the cost of going to school. Insurance, however, is something that is full year. And then this area right here, so total remaining cost, this is the summation of all of the junior year plus senior year. Actually, total remaining cost. I can actually go ahead and delete this because I have already paid that. So an updated total remaining cost. This is everything that I have not incurred yet, but will have to pay. One thing that I am gonna be, again, transparent about for parental contributions, my parents, they are contributing $5,000 each semester. For some kids, this might seem like a lot. For some people, this might seem like not a lot at all. I'm not passing judgment, and I ask you guys to do the same because this is a very personal circumstance, and whatever your parents can contribute, that's a conversation that you need to have as a family, or if you're living with guardians or grandparents, that's a conversation you needed to have. This is my personal circumstance, so like I said, I want to be transparent and show you guys what the cost actually breaks down to. This remaining cost is obviously this minus this. So these numbers in red are estimated amounts for how much I have accumulated, specifically saved for college, and also what I will be making hopefully over my winter breaks and summer breaks. This is not including the money I'm making during the semester because I find that a lot of that money is more of a disposable income, whereas the money I make over the summer and the winter is more of my educational income, the net cost. So if all of this goes to plan, which again, a lot of things change, and that's why it's really important to have this type of dynamic spreadsheet, but I will end up having that amount left over. And then this is just a tally of the entire total cost of school. So now that you've seen the breakdown of that cost, I think the last thing I'm gonna say, and this is a really heavy conversation, I think, for some people, and I can make a whole nother video about this, but one thing that I can offer as my last piece of advice, if you are not currently in school yet and you're still in high school, you don't need to go to an Ivy League school. You don't need to even go to a really expensive private out-of-state school. If you are trying to cash flow your undergrad and you don't have a lot of help from your family or any other outside help, it really is going to be important that you choose a good public state university. I think that that's a huge help, and you are going to find that you are not limited in your education at these public universities. My school is an amazing school, and I know for some people they have their heart set on a certain school, but it really does boil down to cost and what you think you are going to get out of your education and what your return on investment is going to be after you graduate. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit lengthy, but there was definitely a lot of information that I wanted to get in there. But if you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!